Hey guys, John Thompson here with Through the Leash Dog Behavior and Training. Today's topic is going to be dog food. Now, there's prey diet, there's raw diet. I know people who blend their food and kind of make their dog smoothies. There's tons of ways to feed our dogs. Walking into the dog store can be overwhelming, I know. There's food everywhere. What's right, what's wrong. By the end of this video, you guys will have a good understanding on what to look for in a good dog food. But if you have any questions after this video, I'd recommend that you check in with your vet, because that's what they specialize in. First thing we have to realize, and always remember, is that a dog is a dog. Whether it's a Chihuahua or a giant Rottweiler, their diets are pretty much gonna be the same, varying only based off the difference in their size and their activity levels. So when you're walking through the dog food aisle and you see all these thousands of different options, how do we really know what's the best for our dog? When we look at the packaging, they all look like really, really good options for our dogs. The advertising's amazing. We see all these beautiful images of really hearty foods, but we got to remember that all dog food is not created equally. And so despite how amazing the packaging may look, we want to pick the dog food based on what's inside the bag and not what's on the outside of the bag. So when we go to the grocery store for ourselves, what's the first thing that we look for when deciding on which food to pick? The ingredients. And so we're going to take a look at these 4 different brands, 4 different what we would consider grades of dog food, and pick through the ingredients to give you guys an idea on what you should be looking for in the food that you decide to feed your dog. All right, so first let's start off with Beneful. On the commercials, it's really hyped as a vet's recommended food. We can see on the bag it has originals with quote unquote real beef. But let's take a look at the ingredients and see what's really inside of here. So first ingredient we see here is beef. That's always good. We want to make sure that we're feeding our dogs that high protein diet. But the very next ingredient on the list is whole grain. And that's where we start to get concerned. Our dogs can't process whole grain. Just like us, we struggle. And so we want to make sure that when we're looking at the ingredients on the back of our bags, we're not too quick to add grain into our dog's diet. So we see we have grain, corn, barley, rice, whole grain, wheat, a bunch of products, a bunch of ingredients that our dogs struggle to process and really have no nutritional value for them. And so in this 31-pound bag that you probably could get at a really decent price, most of it is filler, and your dog's not getting a lot of nutrition out of it. So general rule of thumb is that you want to make sure your dog has around 30% of his diet is crude protein and below 20% crude fat. That's for adult dogs. Puppies, numbers are going to vary slightly differently as they grow. All right, so this next brand, this is Nutrisource, Seafood Select. This is a grain-free brand. You probably won't find this at your local grocery store, but you'll definitely find it at your local pet store. Now, looking at the ingredients on this Nutrisource, the very first ingredient on here is salmon, followed by a fish meal, peas, pea flour, and then we start getting into vitamins and a bunch of minerals additives after that. Now this is only a 15-pound bag of food, and it costs about 40 bucks. Remember, if we look at those ingredients, all those fillers that we saw in our Purina Beneful are not in this brand. We don't have the cornmeal and the barley and the soy and all those other things. We pretty much have a heavy protein-based food, and then we immediately go into vitamins, minerals, fruits, and vegetables added to give additional nutritional value. And so, yes, this brand of food is a little bit more expensive than your grocery store brands, but it's a lot more beneficial to the dog. All right. This next one is From. This is a 26-pound bag of food. Costs you about 80 bucks or so in the store. Checking out the ingredients, the very first one on there is going to be beef, followed by beef broth and some dry egg product. They have some lentils and peas, pork meal, potatoes, sweet potatoes to see here. We move a little further, we'll start to see they add pork liver and beef liver into this food. And so now, instead of adding the vitamins and minerals to the food, they start using the natural vitamins and livers from the organ meats from the cow and the pig. And then we also, when you read a little bit further down, we still do have the added vitamins and minerals, and then also some fruits and veggies added as well to keep the diet well-rounded. And so Looking at the crude protein on this food, we notice they have a 30% crude protein, which is right where we want to be at. The crude fat is at 18%, which is really good because it's below our 20% threshold. And so for 80 bucks, it is a little bit on the more expensive side, but this is a really, really quality food. If you're going to stick to a kibble, you can rely on From to give your dog everything it needs in this diet. And this last one. Now, before we go any further, I'll say this bag's a little bit more on the expensive side. For this 25-pound bag of food, you're probably going to spend around 120 bucks. But if you're a health nut and you like for your dog to have a really, really clean, healthy diet, we take the look at the ingredients on. This is the Origin Tundra. So you're not gonna find this food in your grocery store for certain, and you probably won't find it in most of your pet stores, but you'll definitely find it in your higher end pet stores or if you're looking online. Now this is the Tundra version, and so when we look at the ingredients, right off the bat we see they have goat, wild boar, venison, Arctic char, duck, wild boar liver. Right out the gates, they're giving you a lot of different options. They're giving a lot of variety to your dog in the meat, the proteins that you're giving it, which is also going to vary because each of these animals have their own diet of their own, giving the dog a lot of nutrients in the meat. When we look at the ingredients that follow, we have wild boar liver and duck liver. We know that the liver and all the organ meats have really good vitamins and minerals in them. They try to replicate everything that a wolf would get living out in the tundra. And so this food, where it is a lot more expensive than your other ones, is gonna give your dog the most well-rounded diet. When we come down and look at the crude protein and crude fats, we're actually at 40% crude protein. So it's a really, really, really high protein diet for our dog, followed by 18% crude fat, keeping it below that 20% threshold that we were looking for. Hopefully you guys got a lot of good information here. We went through a couple of the more common brands or types of food that you can find on the market. It still raises the question, which food should you feed your dog? And so what I'm going to advise is that you guys keep in mind that all foods are not created equally, and you find a food that fits your budget and also fits your goals for your dog. The one thing we can say about all of them is the first ingredient is meat, and that's always what we're looking for. We want to make sure that when picking a food, we stay away from those lower end foods or those foods full of fillers, additives, grains, whole grain, or anything else that we find hard for our dogs to digest. What we'll notice is that the healthier or cleaner the food is for our dog, the less that we have to clean up on the other end. Keeping in mind that our dogs are carnivorous, we want to give them a diet that is high in meat, and to do that we're going to end up paying a little bit more. The Beneful is about $1 a pound, with the Nutrisource coming in around $2.60 a pound. The From is going to be about $3 a pound, and the Origin is almost about $5 a pound. But remember, when we looked at those ingredients, the Origin did have the highest crude protein and did have the most variety in the meat-based ingredients. So, that was a lot of information, but I hope that it helps you guys when you're trying to decide on which food to feed your dog. Remember that we want to check the ingredients, we want a high protein diet. Just because the package is flashy doesn't mean it's the right food for your dog. We wouldn't eat McDonald's every day, and so we don't want to feed our dogs the equivalent in their diet. For more video content, tips, and tricks, visit throughtheleash.com.